Hi everyone, this is Brenda, natural lawyer from the Advanced Teacher Training College for Technical Education, University of Douala, Cameroon, presenting on the topic reinforcing teacher education in Cameroon with implications for effective teaching and learning in crisis situations. This paper examines the current state of teacher education in Cameroon and how it can be reinforced to produce teachers who can sustain effective teaching and learning even in an era of crisis and a paradigm shift to technological development. Consequently, it shall be organized as follows. Introduction, the problem at stake, theoretical underpinning, Cameroon in perspective, trends in teacher education policy, current lapses in teacher education, conclusion and policy recommendations for effective teaching and learning in crisis situations. Education is a critical construction of sustainable societies with outstanding democratic credentials. It inspires people and fortifies nations and serves as a powerful counterbalance in nations, offering citizens opportunities to graduate themselves out of poverty. It is a process of acquiring physical, intellectual, social, and metacognitive capabilities required for daily functioning and national development. It has both quantitative and qualitative perspectives, where the quantitative side refers to the economic dividends that ultimately accrue from it to individuals and their countries as a result of increased earnings, and the qualitative aspect, which has to do with values, culture, and needs as seen by Adeola 2009. On this basis, Ngwa and McCullough 2020 described education as a lifelong individual and social learning progression that challenges ecological, psychological, economic, and sociocultural paradigms and an indispensable instrument for cultural sustainability and national development. Education as a process needs to be qualitatively sustained through continuous and effective teaching and learning at all times. That is why the education practice in any nation is indispensably anchored on the quality of its teachers. Teachers are not only the facilitators of effective learning processes but also key executioners of government policies and reforms with direct effect on learners. Consequently, the burden of guaranteeing the production of quality teachers for effective teaching and learning rests with the state and teacher education sector. According to Lawyer 2020, teacher education has to do with the dissemination and enforcement of policies, provisions, and procedures to equip pre-service and in-service teachers with the current knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors needed to effectively function as facilitators of learning in the classroom, school, and the wider community. In Cameroon, teacher education takes place in teacher training colleges and faculties of education at the and advanced teacher training institutions. It is a common maxim that no educational system can rise above the quality of its teachers. There is no doubt to the fact that teacher education, like elsewhere, is the foundation of Cameroon's education system. Teacher education has therefore formed the basis for good schools and highly educated citizens in the country since the cessation of British and French colonial rule in the early 60s. However, the 21st century Cameroonian teacher is confronted with multiple diverse challenges that threaten the effectiveness of the teaching learning process and overall quality of the education system. This is at a time when education, as expressed by the Education 2020-30 agenda, is burdened with the responsibility of driving the Sustainable Development Agenda through Goal 4 and the Cameroon's Vision 2035 Development Agenda. The global technological revolution characterized by the educational digitalization, the political and health crisis in the country, such as the Boko Haram insurgency, the prolonged Anglophone crisis, and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic with its attendant negative consequences on education, have put to question the preparedness of the teacher educator to adapt and provide quality teachers who fit into these lingering threats to the education of children in the country. Reinforcing teacher education in Cameroon for effective teaching learning in crisis situations is anchored on Lev Vygotsky's social constructivism theory. It is a sociological theory of knowledge which opines that human development is socially situated and knowledge is constructed through interactions with others, according to McKinley 2015. Teacher education for effective teaching and learning in crisis situations demands that teacher training be mostly focused on the social constructivist theory's concept of cognitive apprenticeship. That is why learning through guided experience on cognitive and metacognitive rather than just physical skills and processes. Learning in cognitive apprenticeship occurs through legitimate peripheral participation, a process in which newcomers enter on the periphery and gradually move toward full participation. Endely 2015. Contextually, the pre-service or in-service teacher is the learner, while the tutor is an expert teacher, trainer, and supervisor who, through collaborative dialogue, modeling, coaching, or mentoring, guides the trainee teacher into acquiring teaching 21st century competencies and skills needed for the effective teaching learning in crisis situations. Cameroon is a West African nation created out of the colonial expeditions of Germany, Britain, and France. It is bounded to the north by Lake Chad and to the east by Central African Republic. It is bounded to the south by the Republic of Congo, Gabon, and Equatorial Guinea, and to the west by the Bight of Biafra, an arm of the Atlantic Ocean, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The country has the shape of an elongated triangle and acts as a bridge between West and Central Africa and lies between latitudes 1 and 13 degrees north and longitudes 8 and 17 degrees east of the equator, being described as Africa in miniature on the basis that it exhibits all the major climates and vegetations of the continent: coast, desert, mountain, rainforest, and savanna, according to Njung, Dazanu, and Fo, 2003. On the basis of its colonial inheritance, Cameroon is a bilingual country with English and French as its official languages. Cameroon has an estimated population distribution of about 24 million people, spread across 250 indigenous ethnic groups, and presently constituted in 10 administrative regions, 8 French-speaking and 2 English-speaking. On the account of its history and bilingual disposition, the country is a member of the two world's largest sociocultural and linguistic communities, La Francophonie and the British Commonwealth. It operates within an economy that is based on this background. In recent years, the country has continuously constituted an interesting case of a comparatively better educational system in Africa. The Knowledge Economy Index of 2009 shows that the country was on the 12th position, ahead of some African and Asian countries which ordinarily may be seen as being ahead. The educational sector comprises 4 ministerial departments: Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Secondary Education, the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training, and the Ministry of Higher Education. Total spending on education in the country in proportion to the national budget over the past 2 decades has been slightly below the sub-Saharan African average of 16.6% recorded in 2013. It shrank to 14.6% of the national budget in 2014 to 12.5% in 2016, far below the 20% education sector strategy plan spending mark, Macaulay 2019. The Cameroon education system has witnessed 2 basic eras in terms of policy development, which have also constituted a turning point in teacher education policy in the country. These include the 1910 German Education Ordinance, which preceded the 1907 Education Conference, and the Basic and Education Law of 1998, which came after the 95 Education Forum that brought together stakeholders aimed at addressing the problems that plague the Cameroon education system. There exists a series of laws, decrees, regulations governing Cameroon's education today, but teacher education is contemporary and is captured in Law number 98004 of 14 April 98 to lay down the guidelines for education in Cameroon. There is also the Law of 2001-005 of 16 April 2001 on the orientation of higher education in Cameroon, which in sections 2 captures issues relating to advanced training of personnel for all facets of public life, including teaching. Advanced teachers education in Cameroon is also managed by advanced teacher training colleges for general and technical education, which are schools under the different state universities in the country. Faculties of education in the various universities also provide advanced teacher training education for students who may not have the access to the advanced teacher training colleges of the country. Right. The current lapses in teacher education in Cameroon include the absence of the right and current technology for teacher training in an era of digitalization, the absence of digital libraries for the practice of e-learning, teacher training for teacher trainers and trainees, the epileptic internet connections hindering training in e-learning, obsolete teacher education curricula, and inadequate laboratories and workshops for practical and training and application of theory, grossly limited classrooms and office infrastructure for trainees and trainers, politicization of teacher education, inadequate staffing, overloading of staff, of academic staff, and staff inefficiency, phobia for the resistance to 21st century innovations by staff, inadequate staff motivation in teacher education, overcrowded nature of teacher education programs, which makes training inefficient, inadequate experts to operate the limited available technologies and machines in the colleges, and the gross inadequate funding of teacher education institutions, which grossly delay daily operations. In conclusion, it is absolutely clear that the 21st century teachers are undeniably dealing with new challenges which can only be adequately tackled from the base, the teacher education programs. As earlier noted, more accountable for students' overall development, thereby laying the foundation for lifelong progress and societal development. But the multiple lapses in the Cameroon teacher education sector absolutely have negative implications on the quality of trained teachers that are sent to the field to face these new challenges. The lapses in the system certainly inhibit effective teaching and learning, especially in an area of digitalization and crises that require innovative ideas from teachers in handling the diverse educational needs of our diverse learners. In order to reinforce the country's teacher education and train teachers who will be able to meet up with the challenges of the time, we earmark the following recommendations. Government must put in place national compulsory in-service training policy programs for teachers and teacher trainers. There is a need for conscious and deliberate efforts in the adoption of digital technology for use in the training of teachers in Cameroon. Improved funding of education, and especially the teacher education sector, is absolutely crucial for the training of quality teachers for effective training and teaching and learning in challenging times. Need for a national review of the teacher education program in the country to meet up with present international standards. And there's also the interinstitutional cooperation between national and international teacher education colleges is necessary in order for teacher trainers and trainees to share ideas and experiences which will empower them. The state institutions and other stakeholders could come together and put in place a resounding annual teacher motivation package that drives healthy competition and innovation among teachers and teacher trainers in the country. It is said that if a nation is planning for a year, it should plant food crops. If it's planning for a decade, it should plant trees. And if it is planning for a lifetime, it should educate its teachers and educate its citizens. This is adapted from a Chinese proverb. Thank you for your kind attention.